We have a doozy for you today. I wonder where that term even comes from.
Is it a good term?
Yeah, it means it's something that's going to be rather epic.
Okay, cool.
Now, this wonderful woman here has just returned to me from out of the wild. Yes. How long were you in it?
Technically 6 full days, but there was prep before and after.
So I say the return from the wild, and I'm actually talking about like the wilderness, but what is the wilderness for those who don't know?
Okay, so first of all, there's the idea of wilderness is nature that doesn't have fences, and nature that is freely self-regulating. So it's not a reserve where too many animals are put in within an area and they kind of fighting for things, and it's kind of like a fake environment. This is just the wilderness, and there are not a lot of natural wilderness spots left on the planet, and certainly not many in Africa. So this one is found in South Africa.
Now, most people, when they get a taste of the wilderness, they go on a safari, but from hearing about what you did, it's a slightly different experience. Can you explain to the viewers what exactly is the difference that they would encounter on going on a regular safari versus a walk-in with you?
Well, first of all, a regular safari would not go in the wilderness because there's no vehicles, no lodges, none of that allowed. So a regular safari, you're in like a reserved space that contains animals, and so again, it's slightly superficial, but it's still cool. You get to be in a Jeep and you can drive like right up to animals because they don't recognize those vehicles as anything. They grew up with them, so it's just like air to them. So they
won't eat you.
No, they're not threatened by it. It's not food. It's just something in the environment that happens, and they don't register it really. So that's very different than the wilderness, where there are no vehicles, no lodges, no sign of human life. The only thing that you have are very ancient paths. Some say 500, some say much older-year-old paths that are worn by the rhino and all the other animals, but especially the rhinos, these rhino paths. And then all the animals use them. And so, of course, as humans, we use them because it's a super highway through the wilderness.
So wait, let me get this then. When you say that they're rhino paths that are 500 to 1,000 years old, does that mean the actual rhinos and these animals are walking them?
Yes.
So you are amongst these animals?
Yes, we're living and breathing and being amongst the big five, which are what people tend to want to go to Africa for. So we have the lion, the leopard, I think it's the hippo, the rhino, and the buffalo. Or maybe I got that wrong. But anyways, there's a bunch of big fives. These are things that people want to see. But honestly, all the animals out there are incredible. Even a butterfly is incredible out there because you're experiencing it from such a different place. And for a lot of people, and myself included, when I first went, I'm like, this is scary. I mean, you're just walking, and there are actual predators. There's hyenas and all kinds of cats and things that eat things everywhere, and you're walking in their space. But it is the safest I've ever felt in my life. And when I check in with the clients that I bring there, every single one of them said, I didn't once think about whether I was safe or not. I just was. So it's held in a container that's really beautifully held by 2 Zulu guides, and they love the animals. They understand animal behavior. They basically live and breathe the wilderness, and they invite us through their traditional ways, to enter the wilderness space as though we're entering the home of these animals and that we're welcome guests.
So how many trips now have you led?
Gosh.
Into there?
I don't know.
Into the wilderness.
Probably at least a dozen. I don't know.
That's incredible. So, I mean, what is it then? I mean, obviously you keep going back for a reason, and building up to this time, you've been telling me about how much you just needed to be out in nature. You feel that if you spend too much time in a house or in a building, I mean, this is why we go for morning walks and morning swims and evening walks and evening swims, and we stay in the mountains by the water.
Yes.
So what is it that a person gets, though, by being out in the wilderness and taking this time? Like, why would a person do this?
That's a really deep question. It could be the entire podcast answering that.
Oh, there we go.
Well, first I want to relate it because our podcast is around relationship, intimacy, and sex. How does the wilderness even connect with that topic? Why are our listeners even listening to this? And for me, there's something really important about rewilding ourselves and that reclamation of our bodies, of the erotic, of the instinctual, of the sensual. Being in the wilderness and surviving, you must have your sensuality turned on full blast, and your intuitive and instinctual nature needs to be really thrumming and alive and not shut down. All of those things really do translate relationally, and they do incredibly translate into the bedroom, which I hope we get to talk about, of what it's been like for you to experience me coming back.
Hey, don't jump ahead.
I know, but I'm just...
Who's leading this interview?
I'm just saying, I think it could be a lot
She's still very feral right now.
It could be a lot of fun to explore that. So I'm just kind of laying that out because I would love to head in that direction at some point. But why would I want to
Well, why do you think that that's an important, not really necessarily a feat, but it's just, it almost seems like when you speak about it or your ladies speak about this, it was almost as if there was a rite of passage into like being reintroduced to being human again. And so I'm very curious to have you speak about, like, what is this essential rite of passage in a person's life, especially if you've been living in a city your whole life, for instance?
Well, I want to
or on an iPhone.
Frame my answer with how I came into this, because I think that's an important part of the story. I first was introduced to safaris. I didn't even think about safaris. By a friend and mentor, William Whitecloud. Years ago, he leads safaris as well. Yes. But his are very different. They have an orientation towards his work, plus they also have a lot of people, like over 20 people, and then there's jeeps, there's lodges, there's 5-star food. I mean, it's an exceptional experience. However, when I went, I was overwhelmed by too much human interaction, too much talking, too many cameras. And then I felt a bit like Disney, where I was not part of the wilderness. I was just looking at it for my entertainment and going, oh yeah, I saw this and I saw that, and kind of bragging rights. But something was missing in the experience, and I didn't know what was missing, but something was missing. I mean, I did grow up in the bush in Canada, so I have, a lot of that raw living experience. I worked up north in Canada as well as a tree planter, so I had a lot of time in raw nature, and so something was missing. And then right after that, I went, I gotta go back. I loved the experience, but I want it to be different. I don't know how it could be. And I found this woman, Anna Breitenbach, out of the blue. Her documentary popped up, and I watched this and I cried the whole time. And I instantly picked up my computer after watching the whole thing for an hour and walked over to my partner's side of the desk that I was with at that time, and I said, you have to watch this. He said, no, we're really, really busy. We got to work 20 hours. I said, I don't care. You have to watch this. I pressed play. We were both crying. I mean, and I just knew I'm going to do that. And so I didn't know what that was, but how she was with the animals struck something so deep in me. And I think this is how it can relate to this podcast, is there's a level of connection and intimacy that we all crave. There's a level of being touched by something so profound that it awakens us in a way that we feel free, that we feel deeply alive. And that's kind of the sniff I got from her documentary. So I looked her up, and then she had this walk-in safari. I'm like, oh, I'll do that. 50 people on the wait list, completely sold out, absolutely not, even if it was a year later. I said, oh, no, you don't understand, I'm on that trip. And they're like, no, we got 50 people on the wait list, you're like the last one. And I was like, no, I'm on this trip. And I kept emailing them, and finally I found out years later, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. 2 people came out, and I said to the organizer, please don't pick the next 2 people. Pick the ones that have like the best energy. And because I'd been emailing daily with so much passion and enthusiasm, they emailed me and they're like, the 2 spots are yours, but we need your money now. Like, no payment plan, like pay ahead a whole year, and it was a lot of money. And I was like, oh, okay. I said I would do it, and I somehow found the money and sent it in and got in. So that first that alone, I think, is an initiation. When the wilderness is calling you, it's almost like you'll make it happen. Like nothing's going to get in the way. And that's what I see with the ladies who are coming. All of them have different backgrounds, and some of them are actually quite challenged in the world in terms of finances. But they'll have like this miracle happen where someone will step in and pay for them, or I don't know, something happens when you're called to do that experience.
Well, give me the layout then. What exactly is the experience?
So then I'll give you my first experience and then how I modified it.
Okay.
So I think that's
I like that.
really kind of a cool way
Contrast.
to do it. So 2 weeks before I go to meet Anna and do this walk-in, it was going to be a 5 days, 4 nights, 5 days. And we arrive and there's like 1 day at a lodge and then we pop in.
How many people, more or less?
There's only 10 allowed on the trail. That means 2 guides. Then there was Anna herself, so 7 other participants.
Okay.
And that was myself, my partner, and then 5 people I didn't know.
So couples were there.
There were some couples, some singles, yeah. So we arrive and we had no idea who these people were. So it was like a bit of chaos. And then you have to like the humans because you're going to spend like time, and then your life depends on these people.
Which way?
Well, there is something called the night watch where everyone takes a turn to stay awake to keep the fire going, and with a flashlight, make sure that you don't see a pair of eyes or many eyes looking, and then wake up your guide. So it's really an essential part of surviving through the night.
So everyone's doing that, not just the guides?
No, the guides don't do it. The guides sleep. They need rest because they're alert all day. You only wake them up if you see some eyes. The rest of the time, they are snoring away.
Oh boy.
They're very peaceful. They don't care about all the sounds that you're hearing, and they're freaking you out. So we go and we learn some animal communication with Anna, and then we're just straight in the bush. Like there's not a lot, and then there was a lot of chaos. I did not like the humans. I wanted to throw them off the ledges. I was like, I can't stand these people. I was loving the experience. We were seeing no animals, nothing.
Why do you think that was?
I learned later that who you are as a being and what your felt state is read by your environment very, very quickly, and then the environment reflects that back. So if animals are not showing themselves, they don't want to be seen, probably because they don't like your presence or something. They don't want to be seen. And so I did my first attempt of communicating with an animal when I was like, I really want to see an elephant.
Okay.
Like a wild elephant. And so I kind of sent out this message to the general elephant population saying, if any of you would like to appear, at our camp or something, that would be really cool because I would love it and I'm sure everyone else would. And
sounds a bit dangerous.
Yeah, but I was just like putting out a little request with no attachment to it. So we walked back to the camp that day and the guy goes, oh, there's a massive bull elephant at our camp. And I was like, yay, inwardly. It was a bit further away. It was far enough that they allowed us to swim.
Okay.
And then during the swim, I'm like, oh, I got to go do number. That's like, let's go to the bathroom. We have to dig your own hole.
Number is in number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, out there it's called number. So I have to go dig my hole and and that's the moment the elephant decides is going to connect with me.
I notice animals have a tendency to do that a lot. It seems
like it likes when you're going to the toilet. I don't know why. I mean, there's poop literally everywhere. I mean, everything's pooping everywhere. So this huge bull elephant comes, and the animal communicator, Anna, she's watching it. She doesn't know that I'm on the hill at that point, but she's knowing it's looking at something, and it's very intent on what's there, and that what's there was me. And I remember just squatting there going, okay, now's the moment, I suppose. And just having this profound experience with this bull elephant while squatting over my little hole. And it was just so phenomenal. And later I shared with Anna, she goes, he was definitely communicating with you. That was happening for sure. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that was kind of a mind-blowing thing. What I hadn't read, though, is the small print, was that we weren't going to have tents. There were no lodges, and we were literally sleeping under the stars in the open in an area where all the predators are active at night. So I was like, what did I get myself into? I loved it.
I was about to say, you've done it like 12 times now.
I loved it. The nighttime is my favorite. There's like a million stars. You see the Milky Way so clearly. And then you have all the crazy night sounds, hyenas, leopards, lions, other things grunting and groaning, frogs. I mean, it's very noisy at night.
So what was the contrast then? Because you said at the same time you were wanting to throw people off of the ledges. So I'm wondering what was happening there.
It was just dynamics. There was a person who was very much in her victim. There was a person who was like then bullying the victim. Then we had, just a really loud, obnoxious other man. He was very loud, and I just wanted to shove him off the edge. And then there was this couple who had just come from Burning Man, and they fooled around, and they were both hurting, and they were trying to process their pain. While I was like, I paid a lot of money to be in Africa, not hear about your Burning Man experience. So I was really upset. I was like, shush. And everyone's like, what's gotten into her panties? Why is she so mean? And I was just like, I don't care about any of you. I want to be here in this experience. And so one of the ways I got away from the group, there's this rock that's very big and flat, but you have to literally sleep like a foot away from everyone.
Okay.
So you're all stacked. Then there's this little gap. If you leap over the gap, there's down to the river, there's a gap. It goes down. You are on another ledge of rock.
Okay.
And I decided that's where I wanted to sleep, slightly away from everybody. And so I asked permission to do that. They're like, yeah, that's fine. Well, I find out years later that Anna had just seen a massive snake slithering in that spot. She decided not to tell me because I was really insistent on wanting to sleep there, and she didn't want to scare me.
She wasn't trying to get rid of you off the ledge?
Yeah, I guess so. But my experience was a lot of peace. A lot of the humans know. But so what I decided to do is I went to Anna after the whole trip, and I have to say the reemergence part was dramatic. We were in the wilderness, and suddenly we were left at the airport. It was so intense. I went into shock.
Tell me a little bit about that, because most people, I think it's the idea of going into the wilderness that is scary, excruciating, and I really need to adjust. What do you mean then about re-emerging?
So they have this thing called Code Red, re-emergence disorder or re-emergence depression.
Okay.
And most guides experience it, and some people experience it. And essentially what happens is we lived in nature far longer than we lived civilized. And especially the prelingual part of our being comes online so quickly out there, and you instantly adjust and feel like you're home. So having no walls, having no ceiling, having no electricity, just drinking water fresh right out of the river. There's something that happens when you sleep directly on the earth, and that particular land is rich in iron. So I didn't even need as much sleep because it's almost like supercharging your body. And so you get used to this thing, and in just a few days, it suddenly, even though you're uncomfortable, it's tough rocks, and you sleep on little mats, there's something extraordinarily amazing about it. And you don't realize it till you go back, and then you're surrounded by chemical smells and noise and all these unnatural things, and your whole body just starts to react. Some people just cry, some people get angry. I would cry a lot. I would stick my head in bushes just trying to figure out how to deal with the feelings that were moving through my system in that reemergence phase. So I thought that wasn't done very well, to take me from the deep wilderness straight into an airport. Not well. So I approached Anna and started doing my own. I was like, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to curate it really differently. So what I did is I said, I'm only going to bring women so we don't have these weird male-female dynamics. I'm going to meet with those women 3 months before. I'm going to interview every one of them so I know they're a good match for the group. Okay. We're going to get to know each other. So by the time we arrive, we're not in a who the hell are you phase. We're excited to go on this adventure together. Then I'm going to do a detox from Western civilization. We're going to go live in a village of the local people for a period of 3 days in their little huts, eating their food, still hiking, still moving, still with comforts, meaning there's a outhouse toilet, and you still have you're sleeping indoors all together in a hut on mattresses on the floor. So there's still comforts in a way, but it's still very different than your Western life. So there's a lot of adjustment. It's beautiful because the heart starts really opening. The African culture, it's such a heart-opening space to be in. How they relate to life and the world and each other is really powerful. And I started doing that and doing the animal communication as light exercises prior, just to kind of get people. Animal communication is, for me, it's a human skill. We all have it. It's a way of trusting felt information. So maybe you just get a sense of something, you trust that. Maybe you smell something, you trust that, or you have a visual of something, you trust that. So for example, in this last trip, one of the ladies, she's a doctor from Holland, had this sudden flash of a beautiful giraffe eye on the drive when we first started entering the wilderness area. Well, what's the first animal we see? A giraffe. Yeah. Not only did the giraffe want to be seen, it stood there for a long time just looking. And it was like, I am here and I am the one that you saw in your flash. So it was really remarkable for her and for the rest of us. And what's amazing is as we were leaving the reserve, a baby giraffe blocked the road and was kind of doing this. And we're like, they're looking for you, to her. And so she started crying. It was so beautiful. And then the baby just stood there looking into the van like, I know you're in there. I know you're in there. And it was such like a powerful moment.
Well, you've spoken about, there's so many things to speak about here, but I want to talk about this experience, not just from you get to see all these animals and amazing creatures and the land and everything external, but I want to hear also too about the internal shift that happens, be it emotional, be it the awakening of all the different senses. What is that? Can you tell me a little bit about that? What's it like?
Well, I have to then rewind all the way back to my first trip with Anna, because there's this moment I remember distinctly. When you're on trail, you're one body, by the way. So 10 humans, one body, meaning you're not walking further than hands, like a touch.
And this is for
length.
safety reasons.
This is for safety. And we just look like one big animal walking through the landscape. So there's not an easy singular target, right? So we're operating as a unit.
So it's the reason why it's for safety is because any predator would recognize you as some big, large, odd-shaped moving.
It's not sure what it is, and it's not going to go
it's not
pursue
worth the
it.
risk, yeah.
But one human on its own, it might get curious about, because it's small and monkey-like, and they do hunt baboons and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A slightly more hairless version, softer.
So on that trek, you're not allowed to talk, which is something lovely. I love that. So you're walking through the wilderness. Most people miss nature. I hear it all the time in parks. Blah 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 blah. They're just talking, not understanding that they're impacting the whole environment because they're in their heads and they're blabbing away. But when you're quiet, the human voice is something that startles nature. If you just clicks and coughs and farts, these things are normal in nature, so they don't create that sense of alarm. So we're walking in silence, and we just occasionally click if someone needs to tie a shoe or they see something.
What do you mean by clicking?
That's it, just a little click or whatever.
Which is part of some of the
and sometimes it's like
in the Zulu language,
because there's like something happening and this is exciting. So we click, and that doesn't disturb the nature, so you can actually observe animals way better that way. So we're walking, and then Anna noticed me doing this. My nose got really active. It gets super activated out there, but I was smelling something I'd never smelled before. And I'm like, what is that? I don't know the smell. And it was really strong, so that was information, but I didn't know what I was smelling. What I was smelling was a giraffe.
Okay, I was gonna say, is it like elephant balls? I was watching this documentary on male elephants, and this woman was saying like when the women are in estrus and the male elephant is like completely like charged up, that like the amount of testosterone. Like
it cries out of their eyes.
It's incredible.
It's crazy.
So it wasn't that. That was a giraffe.
No, it was a giraffe. But so she noticed me sniffing, which made her nose come online.
Yes.
And then she recognized the smell because she'd been out there so many times. And then right around the corner was a giraffe. So I had smelled it before I had seen it. On another moment, which was extraordinary, and I couldn't explain it. It's going to sound weird. I'm on this ledge where we'd all been sleeping. It's morning, and I have the big camera because I'm the one taking the pictures, and I holding the camera, and I get this feeling through my whole body as if a lion was right in front of me going, rah, like roaring at me. And it was like reverberating through me, but there was no sound.
Okay.
But there was a sensation of a roar. And so I lift my head to look, and right there was a male lion. So for me...
You say right there,
like I'm up on a ledge, and it's in the river bank. The river's dry, so it's walking through the sandy river bank. Wow. Not far. And
a few hundred yards, or?
I don't know how to do measurements. Maybe 100 meters or something. Not far, because that distance they can cover in a second.
I was about to say, that's quite close.
Yeah. So, but
you're higher though, too.
There it is. And the guy goes, yeah, lion, but it's safe. So I actually took a picture of the guy, and funnily, it was a picture of him. He turned away right at that second, and you just see his balls and his tail. So that's kind of funny. I was like, you're naughty. But then not far was his female counterpart. And she locked eyes with me, which you're not supposed to do at all, ever, but through the camera.
Okay.
I was looking at her through the lens, and she knew, and she was like piercing me. And I was like, sorry. Like, you really understand royalty when you meet a lion in person. It completely knows its place. And it knows your place. It's an amazing experience. But to experience nature through smell or through a vibration was something that then awakens this prelingual aspect of our intelligence, which I think, coming back and connecting with you and my experience with you, has really made me aware of like how delicious it is and how much you and I do speak that language, the nonverbal language, and how much is exchanged through that language makes intimacy really quite phenomenal.
Well, I promise you we'll jump into that, but I want to ask a couple more questions around specifically, you would think going into this wilderness, the wildness, this almost danger zone, that's where you'd be experiencing a lot of anxiety. But when I've heard the stories of the women coming out and I've heard you speak about them, it's as if the anxiety, the fear, all the depression that exists in everyday life, somehow even the mental chatter melts away. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, no one's allowed to have a phone. So that's taken away. The trip is 2 weeks, so it's taken right away at the start. And then you go through a phone detox. But honestly, the women get so into, and they know I'm documenting it, so their mind can relax, because they're like, ooh, I'm missing this, but then they're seeing I'm documenting it. So the ability to have no filter between you and life, because that's what a phone does. It's always, you're filtering everything through this device. Suddenly you remove that, you're having a direct experience. Even just walking through a village and seeing a woman like gardening, for example. And we ask if we can go see her beautiful vegetables, and it's all really an organic experience, not premeditated or anything. We go, and she's got this red clay like all over her face. She's a black woman, but she's bright red for sunscreen. She puts like earth on her face. It's like amazing. And she's so proud, showing us, and her vegetables are so beautiful, and then we want some, and then she's like, okay, this is how much it is, and we give her like 5 times the amount because we don't have the change, and she's dancing and praising God, and just it's just it's very alive, and you're just meeting what's arising moment to moment to moment, whether it's in the village or in the wilderness. And then in the wilderness, there's even a deeper sense of timelessness because you're not around other humans. Now it's just our little pod in the big vast wilderness. And the timing of things is, I'm tired, I nap. I need to go to the bathroom, I deal with that. I'm thirsty, I drink. I'm hungry, I eat. That's it. It's really simple, very spacious. It's not German at all. There's no like hard schedule. It's so fluid. You have no idea when you're going to do what. And so you're paying attention to things in a really different way. And little things have a lot of meaning. A feather on the ground, or a thorny bush, or whatever you're seeing, symbolically means a lot to the women. So they do journal, and there's so much that arises when you remove time and you remove everything that confines the spirit to really be free. And to me, this has been the fastest spiritual growth I've ever done, is to actually just go and be in the wild for a few days, and I'll start to experience oneness consciousness with everything, to the point where animals will come, like little tiny birds that are usually afraid, will just come and land and look at me and like interact in a really special and beautiful way. So
it's incredible.
I think that removal of time, removal of constructs, the real person comes forward. So I've taken people with severe PTSD, and that's completely gone when they're out there. People who've just lost family members. There's almost always one on the trip that's lost someone meaningful, and they have like a really extraordinary healing around that loss and that grief. Just insights on things. And sometimes nothing happens immediately. It's when they go home that they realize how much they've changed. And then they're making very different choices of what's meaningful, what's important to them.
It's beautiful. I suggested this interview when you're emerging because I just knew I would want to capture this and also appease my own curiosities. And I asked you, I said, well, what are some of the things that I wouldn't know of that you'd want me to ask you about? And you just mentioned one of them, so I'm curious. You said, Aaron asked me about the significance of thorns.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned it, so I'm kind of curious to hear
Okay.
you. I am curious to hear you speak a little more about what is the significance of thorns?
Well, I remember part of our transition that we do is we come out of the wilderness, we'll actually not leave the reserve. We actually stay in a lodge, so you still hear all the wilderness sounds, you still see the river that we've been sleeping by, but now you're in a building, but it's rustic.
This is after?
This is after,
Okay.
so that there's a bit of decompression. And then we go back and we all stay in the same little 8-room hotel that is very beautiful and lots of love and connection. So
This helps with the
reemergence.
Yeah.
So, but at that hotel, I remember looking around desperately, going, something's wrong, I don't know what's wrong. And then I realized everything that's prickly and thorny has been removed. We landscape to put the nice, fluffy, soft, pretty things, and we remove the prickly, thorny things. And yet when you're in the bush, you're being scratched and poked and ripped open by thorns of every kind. They're everywhere and huge. Some of them are like, they're like weapons. They're huge. And what I realized, especially with the women, one of the things that needs to come back is healthy boundaries. Thorns, if you look at them closely, they protect the succulent, they protect the green. So without that protection, that green can't thrive and survive. And so when you remove thorns, then you get, all the insects eating everything and the animals eating everything. So there's no protection for the soft things in life. So we become hard. We become the thorn. So for me, reintegrating thorns, which is like clear boundaries, like that is so powerful. And I don't need to talk about, I barely talk on this trip. I just drop maybe a little question here and there. And everyone's like, thank you for asking those questions. They brought all these epiphanies and ahas and these things, but there's a lot of silent time. But the thorns is something that tends to come back around to everybody. Even the ones most afraid of thorns at the end are collecting them to bring one back to remind them of the importance of things that are thorny. And that's because when you can have a clear and solid boundary, go, this is my edge, I'm standing for it, there's no way you're going to get through. If you try and come through, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the soft parts, the succulent parts, are free to really come forward and thrive and bloom. So that's one of the things I love about thorns. Even though they tear me up. Everyone loves their like battle wounds at the end. Like we're all cut up and we're looking, and no one complains. Everyone's like proud to have them because they know what it means. It was their relationship around reclamation of boundaries.
There's a beautiful allegorical book that C.S. Lewis wrote. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but it was basically a person who has passed away, I believe, and so they're in limbo.
Okay.
Before then, and they're getting all on this kind of bus that takes them up into heaven.
Okay.
And when they go there to kind of like check it out, everything is cutting them, like the grass, everything is, because it's this ultimate objective absolute truth, and that true reality, if you don't align with it, it doesn't compromise. And so it literally was like cutting their every step, and was actually quite painful. Whereas though back in the sort of limbo, everyone could have their complete subjective reality, but it would actually create distance between them, because the more that their subjective reality became true, it was less connected to other people's subjective reality. So those who had been there the longest were actually the farthest away on most of the outskirts, and it was as if their homes, their clothing, everything was just immaterial. Even the rain would just go through the roof and everything else, compared to this objective truth of heaven. And it just seems to me that when you speak of the reality of being out in the wilderness, that yes, it's absolutely unforgiving, but at the same time, you're dealing with a sense of truth.
Yes, and you can orient to that. And it's so powerful. And then you get your own sense, your own compass really comes online. That's why I say every time I reemerge, I'm a little more feral than the last, and I never go backwards. So I don't know where I'll end up at some point. But I remember once coming out, and I was really allergic to fakeness between people. And I was in a community at that time that did a lot of that.
Okay.
And
in what way do you mean, like fakeness?
Being nice in order to get somewhere. Like, I'll be nice to you because I don't know what you can do for me yet. I'm gonna find out. Do you have money for me? Do you have prestige? Do you have a contact that'll make me famous? Whatever.
Okay.
So there's this weird attitude where it's not heart to heart. It's really looking for something. So I was with my partner at that time, and he's like, please, can you please try and be nice? Like, it's really annoying to go to these events and like have you snarl at people. Because I was literally like going, if someone would come too close that I didn't like. And he was like, it's extremely unpleasant. And I'm like, too bad. I said, too bad. Too bad. There's something, if something's off, it's going to be off, and my system says it's off, and I'm not making excuses. I'm done taming and domesticating this really vital part of myself. And the thing is, I was right every time, because when you live in the wilderness, you start to understand there is no inner space. You think you have private space? Nah, everything is revealed in and out. So when you are that open, that seen, that naked, then you don't have tolerance. Like, you can see the games that people play like this. The animals all can. What's remarkable is coming out in very little children and animals, like domesticated animals, they want to be near you. I warned the women, I said, this might happen to you, and it happened to all of them. Little kids were leaving their parents to run and try and climb on their laps, and little dogs and like animals just trying to be near them, because young children and animals have not forgotten what resonance feels like. And when a human comes back into resonance, they like, oh wow, like we really feel like we want to be there, that's yummy. And anything else is dissonance. And so my system would pick up dissonance and snarl at it if it got too close to me. I didn't want it near me.
It's like when you say that you were right every time, what do you mean by that?
Well, it would turn out that person had like ulterior motives, or didn't have my best interest at hand, or I would find out later. But instinctually there was a snarl there, like, don't want that person near me. I don't know why. They look nice, they're smiling, they seem happy, but something's off. And again, in the wilderness, very quickly, our capacity to read resonance and dissonance becomes instantaneous, because it's a matter of life or death. You have to be able to feel intent. And I think that's why we can live amongst the predators without problems. I mean, sometimes you have intense interactions, but they're not problematic if you understand like where you're sitting in yourself.
You said that there isn't this inner space, doesn't exist out there. And you also talk about the deep bond that forms with the group of women that go there. Tell me a little bit more about that bond and the extent of not having inner space.
Well, we think we can hide. This is the thing I explained to everyone before they go in those 3 first calls. I mean, you think you can hide your dissonance, but it's radioing out very loudly.
Okay.
And so what will happen in a group if someone's angry, for example? There's a zappy ripple that goes through the group. Everyone feels it, but they're not sure what it is, and it creates dissonance. That dissonance is also then reacted to by the environment. So any animals that are nearby, and if there's anger or fear, it can actually trigger animals to react in not great ways. So we need to be, as much as we can, in a state of curiosity and ease and peace.
What do you mean by not great ways?
Well, it might incite like territorial behavior. So you might have a buffalo charging at you, or you might have a lion that's like growling and saying, "Come any closer and you're dead," kind of thing. Like there's less harmony and more like boundary keeping. Or if it's an antelope, they'll just all run away. They don't want to be near you because they sense dissonance. Whereas when you're in resonance, it's incredible what can happen and how close you can be. Like we had an experience, I think we were only 2 meters above a herd of elephants that were calmly eating and not being upset with our presence. Because we were, I think, in our 2.5 days of silence already at that point. So everyone was very quiet. And we could just be, and no one's impatient, because what else are you going to do? There's elephants. You're just going to sit and you're going to enjoy watching them eat. That's your whole reality becomes that moment for that moment until it's not. And so that kind of communion, you can feel that the animals know you're there and they want you there. If they didn't want you there, they would either disappear or they'd make you disappear.
Depending where they are on the food chain relative to you. Okay, well.
So I didn't really explain the bond between
go ahead. Go.
The ladies. I think that just naturally happens when you are faced with intensity, and when each person starts to become very responsible for their felt state. So this is one thing I kept inviting. I'm like, if you're afraid, just say I'm afraid. If you're angry, just say I'm angry. Don't point the finger, don't attack, just own that it's yours, and so that we all can calm down and know, okay, that's the source of the dissonance. And so that started to happen very early on. And I think when we have that level of emotional integrity with each other, then this kind of like we can all just drop into trust and into joy. And then, I mean, the one thing that bonded us the most, which is kind of strange, is looking for ticks, because it's a naked body search.
The ticks aren't shy.
The ticks are not shy. They will go into every crevice, I tell you.
It's their favorite places.
Anything moist and dark, they like it. So armpits and
use your imagination,
butt cracks and everything. So tick check is a normal thing that we do. Somehow we always end up with a doctor in the group. I don't know why. It just seems to be that way. So
they always get tasked with the most intimate.
Yeah, exactly. But just alone, like running your fingers on another person's body that you don't really, know a little bit, but you don't know that well. Their naked body, and you're looking and making sure that they're safe from ticks and removing them if you find them. There's a profound intimacy, because it's like monkeys a bit that are grooming each other, right? And it's not erotic in that sense, but it is very sensual, because you have to use your sense of touch and your eyes, and you're looking, and obviously there's all shapes and sizes and ages and things, everyone's scars and tattoos, everything's revealed. And yet there's this act of just innocence, just being there innocently and doing the task, and then we're doing it all in silence because there's no speaking. So then we're like, hands up, like you're all good, you're clean to go. And then if we find one, showing them and then killing it, that kind of thing. And I had to remark, it's really interesting that the ticks incite such profound connection and intimacy. But I think in normal life, you would never strip down naked and just let someone look at every, part of you and inspect to make sure that everything's good.
Well, also, when you tell me about the bathroom habits, also incite a lot of intimacy. Tell me a little bit
because,
about that.
first of all, number, so going number 2, you need to dig a hole.
Yeah.
And you can never go alone because you're a bit vulnerable. So
this is when the animals like to come up to you.
So you always have to go with a partner, and they can't be that far. So then there you are, squatting over your little hole, and the person might be like 10, 15 feet away doing the same, or just standing there. In my group, they were standing like 5 feet away. I'm like, hey, it's a little close. Like, I don't need you that close. I'm good. Like, sure. But I couldn't say anything because it was silent. So I'd be like, move away. Anyways, so there's a sweetness there. And so as soon as someone needs to go, they're like, who can come with me? And just whoever's available, they go. And it creates a bond, a family, like a little pack of animals that are
you told
supporting
me a
each
story
other.
once of a woman who decided not to go ahead and tell someone and just went off on their own.
Yeah, that wasn't in any of my groups.
Yeah.
It's a story that a guide told, I think to scare us all a little bit.
Okay, all right.
But it's a true story, but it was retold with the purpose of do not do
It was a
this.
didactic story, yes.
So now the rules are you're not even allowed to poop at night. Like at all. Like you poop in the day.
All right.
So that's like, it's gotten to that level of no. So you tell your bumhole no. It's a daytime activity.
Okay.
If you absolutely had to go for whatever reason, you'd wake up a guide, they would go, but they have to stand next to you with the flashlight and the gun. So it's really not relaxing. So everyone's bum oriented to daytime going. So that's one thing. But anyways, on this one trip, during night watch, so everybody's sleeping, you are responsible for everyone's life, the person that's awake. This woman made the decision that she was going to go poop on her own and not wake anybody.
Okay.
So she abandons.
And she had the night
She
watch.
abandons the camp because you have to walk away from the camp to go dig your hole. She abandons the camp, abandons the fire, doesn't tell anyone, goes and digs a hole and squats to go to
It's
the
like
thing.
a double no-no.
Yeah. So she does this. Anyways, 4 hours or so later, they figured it out because of how many people missed their night watch. The guides wake up bright and early. The fire's dead, which is never dead. It's dead. So they're like, something's immediately wrong.
Yes.
The fire is dead because everyone knows you have to keep the fire burning. 2, there's someone missing. And 3, a lot of people haven't been woken up. So she's been missing for a long time.
Wow.
Not good. He gets his gun. He's like, okay, everyone stay here with the second guide. I'm going to go as the lead guide. Finds her squatting over a little hole with an entire pride of lions around her, just waiting for her to make a move because they don't attack if you don't move. So they're watching, and she's squatting and been that way for 4 hours with her pants around her ankles.
Wow.
Frozen in terror, which was a good reaction because if she'd moved, it would have been finished. So, which is not good because then they have to kill the lions that taste the human, because that cannot be.
Because then they'll start
part of their
looking for that.
So yeah, he had to get rid of the lions in the way that he understood how to do it respectfully. So the lions left. Then he had to literally like uncrick her legs because they were frozen in this squat position, and then help her pull her pants up because I mean
they literally caught her with her pants down.
And so very, very bad, not good.
She didn't do that again, I guess.
No, and so the story is told
so that no one else ever does it
for that
again.
reason. But I wanted to share a new story that came in, and it's not about where I go. It's about another part of South Africa where there's a lot of game drives. And at that part, there's a border to other countries where people sneak in.
Yes.
And one of the ways that they sneak in and not get eaten by predators is they figured out we need to make noise. The noise will keep away the animals.
Yes.
Well, but lions are very smart. They now figured out that the things that make noise are easy food. So now there's a whole new animal behavior that they just go and pick off groups of humans that are making noise because they're like, great, you're telling us right where you are.
This is why you have the silent retreat?
No, but it just shows how quickly nature will adapt. Everything out there will take advantage of any situation. So what we're trying to do with this wilderness experience is heal the rift between human and the wild.
Yes.
2, it's a conservation effort. The more we're out there, the less there's poaching. The poachers, like, they see the fires, they see the flashlights, they can't act as well. So the more we do that, the better. And then 3, it's ecotourism, because beforehand we go to the villages and all the money we bring like really supports the villages, and the villages are like, you people really want to be here? This is amazing. You want to just pay us to eat our food that we eat every day and talk to us and learn about our culture? We're like, yes. So it's a really win-win-win for everybody.
Well, there's an amazing guide that you've spoken about, and I've spoken to maybe twice, a little bit on the phone. Very much looking forward to meeting him. Shout out to you, Big C. And you speak about the significance of this trip, this journey that he takes these women on, as he also wants to actually reintroduce the wild to his own people. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And also, part of the experience where we're even going into the wilderness, you all spent some days.
We went into Zululand.
Into Zululand.
Yeah, so we went to KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
We actually did both sides. So it's a big province that's split, and we ended up being able to visit KwaZulu and then Natal, the 2 sides, and learn about the Zulu culture and the incredible people, really, like what they stand for and their traditions. And I mean, I even like their mating, rituals when a young couple is like, are we interested in each other or not? And like all the rituals around that, and it's pretty cool. So, but one thing that's happened with the Zulu no longer living with the predators and amongst like having the wilderness, access to the wilderness, and also the cattle is a big deal to the Zulu, so they don't like the predators because it eats their cattle. So there's always like this dynamic, but because they're a bit estranged from it, then they're terrified of it. So one of the things he's attempting to do is to bring the people back to have direct relation, because the land where the wilderness is actually belongs to the Zulu people. They were pushed out of it. And so one of our guides was actually a Zulu prince, and he's like, this land belongs to my family. The land that you just slept on and walked through belongs to my family. But he didn't say it in like a way where he was a victim or angry. It was a matter of fact. And it was like, in some ways he understood, well, it's preserving the land and the animals. But in another way, it's like, how do we help the local people benefit from this? So he likes the efforts of, combining the wilderness with previously visiting the culture and really getting to know the culture. So that's kind of a new thing that I've brought to them.
Well, tell me about that experience.
Which one?
The visiting the Zululand beforehand. You mentioned that there was the medicine woman, the matriarch, and also the dance. Yeah,
well, I had made those requests because I think they're really interesting cultural things to connect with. And so in the first village, we were introduced to a woman who gave us kind of how girls are brought up. And then we walked to another household and we were shown or taught how boys are brought up. And boys are brought up, it's very intense to be a Zulu boy, but by the time they're very small, they're running cow herds and they're tough kids. They can handle a lot of stuff. So very interesting how they raise the girls and the boys. And then we also met with a Sangoma when we brought her medicine from my tribe and kind of like offered what these medicines were. So there was a cultural exchange, which was very cool. And then we met someone's auntie who was the selected female elder to bring forward all the female traditions of that group of Zulu people. So she was very proud that she was the wisdom keeper for these traditions and held it very serious. So she showed us like the different outfits that the women wear and like the different things that they do. And she was quite naughty. She was fun. She laughed a lot. She would she was very joyous and but she had a special energy. And I found out later she was also a Sangoma, also a healer.
Okay.
So super interesting. And there they have men can take multiple wives. So if they're capable of providing a full home and
you said it was 11 cows?
Yeah, 11 cows, but a full home, and they're able to then provide another home for a different wife.
Yes.
All of that, then they're allowed, but they're not allowed to take multiple wives unless they can actually provide for all of them.
And they have to gift the family the 11 cows, which is interesting because a lot of times with the dowry, it's the
female
family that
the
gifts
male
the
has
male.
to come up with the 11 cows. And it might take him a while to do that, so it's
Well, tell us about that because you're saying that the extreme value that's placed on a woman in Zulu society.
yeah, I mean, she's seen as the person that will grow the clan. So she's very, very
The bringer of life.
the bringer of life, and so they have very strict rules. But you have to understand that these are tribal rules of sexual behavior for teenagers and what's required and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And the reason they do that, A, is one, they don't want teenage pregnancy.
Yeah.
And two, they don't want the spread of disease.
Okay.
So those rules are there for that. Of course, there's plenty of naughtiness that does happen and ensue, and they have to deal with that. But they deal with it with the community. So say in a community, you would have your father, but you also have another father that is the father of all the boys.
Okay.
So it's like a selected elder who is the father figure of all the boys. And so you wouldn't necessarily go to your father if you had a problem. You would go to the clan father.
Okay.
And then you would say, so-and-so, like, hit me with this. And you have a disagreement with your friend. And then he will help
Sorts it
both
out.
sides work it out. And one of the things they said, they allow a lot of fighting between the boys young so that when they're older, they become friends.
Huh.
They kind of get all the testosterone and intensity out, and they just allow it. They're like, they encourage it, and they beat each other with sticks and throw these prickly fruit at each other and do all kinds of things.
It's different than in Western society.
But they really allow that, and then they're like, yeah, that guy over there, we used to really beat each other, but now we're friends. Now we work together to help, our collective. So.
You mentioned that they have different kind of like mating rituals. I'd like to hear you tell me a little bit about how mate selection happens.
Well, the boy selects the female, but then the female is the one that says yes or no.
That's kind of like in nature. You see the male come up and do the dance or whatever. And
Yeah,
then the
he's like, I like you.
Female's like, nope, or yes.
Yeah, so if a boy really likes a girl, then he needs to go to the elders and say, I really like this girl.
Okay.
And then they're like, fine. Then they check with the girl, and she's like, oh yeah, she's kind of curious. They're like, okay. So then
they will check with the girl for him.
And then they set up an arranged time where they're kind of in the forest alone together.
Like a date?
Sort of, I guess you could say it's like a date. And then they have to figure out if there's chemistry between them, which means they're allowed, I guess, to just interact and maybe kiss. I don't know. There's no sex involved, but there's, do you even like this person now that you're alone with them? And if the girl comes out and goes, nah, there was no chemistry, it's the chemistry thing they're looking for, then they say to the boy, sorry, you need to look, this woman will never be available to you. You need to look elsewhere. And then she remains available to someone else.
Well, I find this interesting because having this emphasis on, is there an energy between the two, as opposed, and since it's also, and you mentioned to me that it was a standard reverse dowry because it's the male that's giving it to the female's family, that then you don't have, okay, well, from this person I can get 30 cows, or from this person I can get 100 cows. It's the same for every single male that comes forwards.
Yep.
So really what they're getting to feel into is the energy between one another as the actual check between, is there potential between this relationship?
Yeah.
And I think that's quite unique because there's so many other ways that people match themselves up that don't necessarily have that same kind of significance.
The other thing I really, really loved was observing teenagers to their traditional dances. And by teenagers, I mean like tweens to mid-teens. And some of their dances, they almost like fight. And they'll like do these gestures and then they fall on their bums. And what they do, it's a social training for the kids. It's like you're going to have to work out your disagreements. You're going to have to work out your differences. Here's how you stand your ground. Here's how you express yourself. Here's how you just let go finally of being upset. And so they learn social skills through traditional dancing, which I think is incredible.
Well, speaking of social dances, I have definitely noticed since you've been back that the way within which you appreciate and interact with me, it has this completely other level of, how would I put it? I think attunement would be the word to it, because I feel that you are experiencing me more on a visceral level, more energetically. And what I mean by energetically is just the things that, you know, you can't necessarily put into the 3D world context. It's kind of the rhythm by which your body matches me and my mood and the dance that we have. And when I say viscerally as well, like literally during the act of lovemaking, there is an aliveness inside your vagina that is so live and receptive, but also extremely proactive. It feels both wild, yet just open-hearted and full of love. I think that's also what I mean by energetically as well. There's this extreme magnetism. There's like your presence in your field around you, just like the charge, it seems larger and more intense. And I'm just curious what's the experience like for you making love coming back from the wild?
Well, I have to say, when you and I first met, I had just come out of a full month in Africa. And by what I mean by first met is when we were, connected through a mutual client, and then eventually we spoke. So just to give the timeline, you've never really experienced me fresh out of the wilderness, so that's kind of fun.
Yes.
And how am I experiencing? Well, one thing that was really obvious to me, because I've done this trip so many times and code red has affected me, like reemergence disorder is has been very real for me and very, very difficult. What I noticed though, this time, I wasn't in a rush to like turn my phone on and talk to you. I always felt connected to you through the whole trip. So I had this like relaxed feeling. But the other thing I had when I was out there was, I know this feeling that I'm immersed in because it's the energy of our relational field was identical to how I feel in the wilderness. And that was such a massive insight for me. It kind of blew my mind for a few days. And I was like, how is that? And why is that? And wow, I don't care. It's amazing. So that actually helped my coming back out. I came back out with joy. I didn't cry. I didn't feel upset. Yes, I had some difficulties, but that's to be expected. But not in the same way as before. And when I look back, all my previous trips before, what I was coming back home to had a lot of dissonance. So I think there was such an extreme difference between being in the wilderness and what was at home. Whereas now coming home, it's in resonance with what I was experiencing. So there's an easier integration in that way. So that's one thing I really noticed. And then the other part that happened while I was out there, because we've been through some challenging times recently, and there's all my old wounding around betrayals and trust issues. But when I was out there, I just felt 1,000,000,000% at ease, just deep peace. My heart was relaxed. I felt joy. I felt like awe that you're in my life. Like there's a lot of love and appreciation. But the nervous system, I was in parasympathetic almost the whole time, which was extraordinary, to the point where I felt like I was in an altered state sometimes. You know, like what's happening? Why? Whoa, the reality is really shifting. So I think that was the gift that you bring into my life, that you have a very resonant presence, and you're very honest and transparent, and you've been, you know, whatever, going into your own journey and aligning yourself to yourself. And the more aligned you are with yourself, the more I feel in alignment with you. And so coming back, my experience of our lovemaking is just, it's like I've never made love before. Whatever happened in the past, I was like, that was one thing, but this is a whole, I don't even have words. The visceral, physical sensations are extraordinary, but also the liberation and the joy in my heart and the innocence in my heart is really sweet. And then the appetite is quite ferocious, but relaxed. It's hard to explain. Anyways, it's very yummy. And I just feel really excited for you to experience the wilderness at some point as well.
I noticed that you got a little emotional there when you said the joy in your heart. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
When I'm in the wilderness, I get a sense of I'm at home, I'm complete. I don't need or want for anything. When I come back and I start to interface with the stresses of life and these different things, there can be an erosion of my natural joy because I'm trying to hold whatever the stressors are at bay, or work with them, or like, you know, adjust to them. And in this particular coming back, you don't represent stress and difficulty to me. You represent adventure and fun, but also ease and, yeah, a sense of both being in the wilderness but at home. So
that's beautiful. I want to finish up with one last question, because you have a professional training. So I'd like you to tell me a little bit about that professional training, and how does this, because this isn't a required part of it, but how does this then fit in with that?
Oh, what was remarkable about this last trip is everyone on the trip, they were all my students. So how it fits in with that, and you don't have to, you know, do either. Like,
well, first start, what is your professional training?
So it's the embodied psychosexual method. I train practitioners of all levels of life to bring in the conversation of psychosexuality, but also the embodied practices of psychosexuality. So really creating a holistic, at-ease human that is comfortable in their body and feels at home there and enjoys the sensations and the things that are arising, and feels, yeah, that this is where they want to be, and it's something they get to explore and enjoy.
So that's what they're doing for their clients?
Yeah, that's what they're doing for themselves, and they're also doing for their clients, because I don't think you can help people in this arena if you're not also in your own body.
Which is why you call it Become the Method.
Yeah. And so there's not a lot of conversation about sexuality in the wilderness, and yet it's all there.
Yes.
And I think there's a return to a sense of naturalness, is a return to its rightful place, so that sexuality is just, it's part of every breath, it's part of every step, and yet it's not the act of sex. I mean, it's not been extracted and made into this commodity or pornified or whatever you want to call it. It's just there, and some women were, you know, out there menstruating. Some women are now in their menopause and their cycle came back just for the trip. So it was sort of an interesting experience. And when you're there and you're in nature, everything is about sex. I mean, you like survival, whether it's a plant or an animal. And we were, coming into spring, so you can see either things wanting to mate or they've already mated and they've given birth. And so there's brand new little babies everywhere. And that's the nature of things. That's how life, keeps going. And so as a human being that can have conscious choice around conception and then move beyond conception into also the cultivation of pleasure and different states of being, then I feel like the wilderness can support perhaps any part that doesn't feel yet totally natural or integrated to drop in and just go, oh, I'm a human animal and here's the ways that I respond to things, and just feel at ease with that.
So specifically then, what do you think a professional who's wanting to understand the impact of sex, sexuality, relationships, intimacy, particular to their field, because this is something I think that's really important and incredible that you do, is you help doctors understand this impact, psychologists understand this, government officials, world leaders, and business owners, because sex is everywhere, but it's never really taught. And you talk to actually like a doctor or a psychologist when it comes to the aspects of sex and sexuality and pleasure.
Yes,
it's just not included in their curriculum, and so you bring that in your training to them. And then, so what does a professional gain then by going into the wilderness?
Probably the primary gift that everyone gets, I don't care who they are, is that you realize you belong to life.
Huh.
And when you have that realization, not as a concept, as a visceral, deep knowing, it becomes unshakable. And when you hold that, one of the main thing across almost everything is belonging issues. It's behind so many weird behaviors and everything. So when you already embody, like I belong to life, and you bring that into a business meeting or a medical situation or a psychological therapeutic situation or whatever the situation is, there is an at-easeness that happens in the space around you, with the people. You're creating resonance more and more without speaking. And that's one thing. You can track people so much more into truth, into areas of maybe they're not even willing to look and you just see it. And you can bring them there with a lot of ease and comfort. So I would say that's one of the bigger gifts.
That's incredible. I really want to go. Now, if somebody is wanting to go on this trip, what sort of things should they be prepared for? I mean, or how could they prepare themselves for it? Is it just a particular age range that you can have to go there?
No, I've taken as young as 20, and some have been in their mid-70s. We've had people with really bad arthritis, all kinds of different physical ability.
So you're having to actually carry your own food.
You carry your own food, yeah. You carry your own pack. People, I do encourage that they start training, even like sometimes as early as 9 months before, where they just start to walk more with a little small pack, and then eventually like add more and more weight. No one really complained about that.
That's incredible.
Even though, and we all help each other. We even had someone with rotator cuff injuries. She never took her own pack on or off. We really work as a family.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will, and others take extra weight if needed, if a person needs that.
All right. Well, then, if that's that open and inviting to everybody, how and when does someone get to sign up for the next experience?
Oh, well, right away, because it usually books out a year ahead. So I will be booking in the next one now.
Okay.
And what's cool is I'm going to do something I've never done before next year. So I'm going to do the same 2 weeks where we go to the villages and kind of detox from society, and then we get ready, and then we go into 6 days, 5 nights, not 4 nights, 5 days. That extra days makes a huge difference. those who've already been on the trip will be invited then to do a 10-day in the wilderness experience.
Not necessarily that trip, but any of the trips from beforehand.
Correct. So from that pool of people who've been with me for the last
12 years,
13 years, 6 of those will be selected to come.
To do a 10-day.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that's wanted you to do this 10-day?
Well, because when you're out there and you've been out there before, you get curious, like, what will actually happen if I stayed an extra few days? Because on day 6, I'm not ready to leave.
Yeah, you said that the women were literally like crying
about
why,
they don't
want their cell phones back. They don't want to.
You don't want to go. So,
some even stayed in, like the majority, I think, actually stayed in South Africa.
Yeah, extra days, which I encourage. So we, I'm just curious. I've never done it. My guides have done it. And the way that we hike right now is we only stay in what's called the Black Embolozi River area. And they're like, you got to see the White Embolozi River area.
Okay.
It's a much bigger landscape. I think that with that much time, we're going to have so much more ability to drop in even deeper. I think I might intersperse some days of silence within that full period, so it's not all silent.
Yep.
But there's also some integration moments where we speak again and then we go back into silence. So I think that's going to be I'm really excited to lead that. And I'm curious how to do it. I really am. But the guides are absolutely certain it's going to be extraordinary. And
Incredible.
So if it's your first time, then the 2 weeks with all the prep and everything is really a life-changing experience already. And if you've done this before and you want to go deeper, then there'll be, for the first time ever, a longer experience.
And people reach out to you by email, or is there a website, or how do people find out about this?
I think we're just going to have to put links with this episode because I'm not sure what the web address is anymore.
It's going to be in the wilderness.
Yeah, usually it's a redirection of Wild Women in the Wilderness.
Okay.
.com, but the 10-day one, I don't know where I'm going to host that information. So.
Okay.
No.
Well, I just have to say that this has been quite an experience for me.
A little bit different episode.
Enjoying you out of the wild, enjoying you going into the wild, and
I just really appreciate how you showed up as a partner through this. Because you were like the whole time, just go, have an amazing time. I've got this, I got the team, like don't worry about anything. And it was so different than my experiences before where my partnership was very needy and like almost angry or upset that I was departing. So that also created a lot of ease and joy in my system. And then coming back and the level of joy and excitement you expressed at my return, I was like, wow, like I don't think anyone's ever expressed that to me before.
2 days before you were returning, I felt like that kid, like, when's Christmas coming? Like, how many more hours do we got here? And I've also really been looking forward to doing this interview with you and just getting to dig in and ask all the different questions. Yes. So it really has been a pleasure. So thank you so much. I know,
it's amazing. And there's just so many more stories that we can't go into now. Like I've had like real live lion encounters, and in seeing those creatures that close and having those encounters was like meeting God for me. There was an element of that in the experience. So there's a lot more to share, but I guess that will be shared in the community that is built around going to South Africa.
Well, so if you're interested in more of that and real life animal encounters, both with those in the wild, but also the one inside yourself, definitely check out what this woman is offering, because you will definitely not return the same. There'll be more of you. So thank you for showing up.
To join us for the complete and explicit version of this podcast, just simply upgrade your membership and you'll get instant access.